You hear a lot, just choose what makes you happy. But I don't agree with that. Title of this video is pretty self-explanatory, but what are my credentials to talk about it? Hi, I'm Anna, and I graduated from grad school after going straight into grad school from undergrad last year. This makes one full calendar year of being post-grad, and this is a little time of life that I feel like no matter how much you maybe hear people talk about it beforehand, it doesn't fully prepare you to how it is going to feel whenever you do graduate and all of a sudden you're a baby adult out in the real world. That being said, I also think that the reality of post-grad is not too often talked about all too much, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I hope that overall this video can be realistic yet encouraging to you if that is a time of life that you are either currently going to or maybe you're about to enter it, which if so, congratulations on graduating. How fun. I guess this also could be like what I wish I knew before going post-grad. I'll make little chapters down at the bottom to kind of give an overview of what I am hoping to talk about, but I think the number one thing that makes post-grad so different from any time of your life up until now is that all of a sudden you set your own expectations. When you graduate, you quite literally are launched into this world. Up until now, your whole path has been relatively similar to the peers your age. Obviously, everyone has differences, especially like maybe you went out of state to college, maybe you took a gap year and then went to college, whatever it may be, but it's still relatively the same steps as everyone else. You have this feeling of, okay, we're progressing together. Perfect, we're done with 7th grade. Now we're into 8th grade. Oh my gosh, we graduated middle school. Time to start high school. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Oh my gosh, it's college time. Our whole lives are fast paced with different like steps along the way that also is all leading up to this moment where all of a sudden you've been focused on school your entire life and then you're like, oh, I graduated and now I am done. And there's no more congrats, you're done with 11th grade, time for 12th grade anymore. It's like you took your little stairs up to the top and now it's just kind of broad horizon of what is going to come next. With that though, it's so important to acknowledge that you have accomplished a huge goal, but you have not reached your finish line. There becomes a lot of pressure that I think we put on ourselves. Maybe other people put it on it, but I think for lots of us, the one putting most expectations on our post-grad selves are ourselves, because you've been working, you put in so much work up to this point, and so now it's like, okay, I need my dream job. I need to live my dream life in my dream city, surrounded by my dream people. As a continuation of this little race that I ran through school, I've reached my finish line, so now it's time to celebrate. Whereas in reality, even though you've graduated, now you are a brand new baby adult, very beginner. Maybe you're going to be starting a new job. Maybe that's a step for you that'll come later than it does for your peers. So the journey has just begun. And it's so important to acknowledge that, because thinking of yourself as, okay, I made it, doesn't allow you to have as much grace with yourself as if you think of yourself as, okay, I'm a baby adult. Like, it's time to start navigating, figuring things out, and I'm new to this whole new part of life. Lots of times it's not fun to feel like a beginner, and transition periods can just feel icky, but success evolves, and it has evolved so much between school success versus the types of success that are available to you once you make it post-grad. In school, you probably were praised if you put a lot of work into your schoolwork, you got good grades, and you did a lot of extracurriculars. You knew how to make yourself be good at whatever it was that you were doing. Whether you were a really great social being or a really great student or a really involved student, or you took a lot of leadership roles, all of that gets stripped away whenever you enter the post-grad world. And that can feel like shocking, even if you're not expecting it to, where it's like, okay, the entire framework that I know, that I'm familiar with, is no longer here. And it's easy whenever those like methods of success get taken away to feel like now all of a sudden you're unsuccessful. So acknowledging that success evolves, and that what made you good, what made you feel affirmed when you were in school or were in college or were in grad school, is going to be different now. Taking time to adjust to that, while also acknowledging that you're not unsuccessful now just because you're not getting constant academic affirmation, or maybe your friend group has disbanded to different parts of the country. Life is about to feel so weird. I think the thing that I most often hear people talk about whenever they discuss post-grad, when they do discuss post-grad, is needing to find a sense of purpose and feeling this great sense of purposelessness whenever you're into this whole new world by yourself. A lot of that has to do with the different evolving success definitions that we just talked about. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you get to shape what you do now. And that can be stressful with a lot of pressure, especially if you have the expectations. Remember, we talked about expectations. If you have the expectations of entering post-grad and immediately having a purpose, or immediately having a dream job, or immediately having fulfilling days. Honestly, that's just not realistic, but that's okay. Sometimes post-grad feelings can come from being at a different speed it than your peers now. As we mentioned with the framework of school, okay, congrats, you guys are in 2nd grade. Okay, congrats, you guys are in 3rd grade. Okay, congrats, you're doing your little post-high school, whatever you're up to. In post-grad, remind yourself that you are not ahead and you are not behind, because there is no longer any timeline to follow, which is another adjustment. Some people move back in with their parents after post-grad, and to them, sometimes that can feel like, oh no, I'm behind. Like, my friends are moving to a new city, they got a new job, and I'm taking this time to like figure out what I'm trying to do next, and that makes me behind. Whereas that's not the case. That's just what is best for you at that time and what your journey is holding at that time. Along that same train of thought, you are not ahead of your peers either. Jumping into a step of life that you're not ready for isn't necessarily an indicator of success, unless that's what's best for you at the time. But I think it becomes so shocking post-grad when all of a sudden you're like, oh, that person's engaged, that person's married, that person has 3 kids, this person just got a promotion, this person isn't working, this person moved abroad. And it can be so easy to be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. My life isn't as exciting as theirs is. And it's so much easier said than done to be like, okay, there's no set timeline anymore, so I'm not ahead, I'm not behind. But I think it's something you just have to tell yourself whenever you can acknowledge that you're feeling some type of way about what you're up to, that there no longer is a set time frame in which you need to do things. And with that, your steps forward spread out a lot. It's no longer, okay, after a school year, now you're progressing. Sometimes maybe, okay, you're doing something for 3 years and then perfect, you built yourself up, you gained a lot in that time, and now it's time to move to something else. It slows down a whole lot. But with that, and this is something that I have consistently had to remind myself post-grad, is that you can't reach Z without first doing A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way down. Where this is relevant post-grad is that I think it's so easy whenever you're in college or in grad school or in high school to have this picture of what your life will look like after you graduate. And lots of times that may be like an idealistic, like this is what I ultimately want. Whether it's a dream job, dream apartment, dream lifestyle. And fact of the matter is, most likely, I can almost guarantee that your first year post-grad is not going to match your dream and goals for yourself. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you failed. You just have to take steps to get to your goals, and being at the kind of like bottom rung of those steps isn't always comfortable, it's not always fun, but there's joy in that process too. It is so unlikely that your first job post-grad will be your perfect dream job. You will not retire from that job, almost guaranteed. It'd be very rare if you did, but that's okay. That's not a failure on your part. If you hate your first job, perfect. There is literally no better time than to be at a job that you hate, because you're learning about yourself and about what you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing. And you're learning what to look for in a future, in a job, but maybe you want to stay out longer. So take the skills, take the experience and the network that you can from the job that you have, and be ready to seek new opportunities as they come up, even if that's not immediately. This is a point that I was going to touch on later, but it seems like it kind of fits right now. But I think lots of times in the discourse about post-grad, whenever you hear people talk about it, you hear a lot, just choose what makes you happy. And maybe it's a hot take, but I don't agree with that necessarily. When you're making big decisions about your post-grad life, about your career, whatever it may be, it's important to choose what's best for you, but what's best for you may not make you the happiest, because sometimes you learn the most in uncomfortable times. If you move to a new city by yourself, that's not going to be comfortable. Like, it's not going to be you just hit the ground running and everything's happy and everything's so fun, but it could be what's best for you, but it's not making you happy immediately. Sometimes you have to push through that discomfort to get to things that are ultimately better. Why I think it's important to switch your mindset from do whatever makes you happy is because it allows you to take the perks and the pros and the good times and the benefits of things that maybe don't make you happy. For example, if you watch my channel, if you're not new here, clicking on this video only, you know that I took a job post-grad that was not necessarily comfortable for me. It ended up being a very negative experience kind of overall, but I'm so glad that I had that experience, because I learned so much about myself. I became so much stronger. I learned how to push through discomfort. I would not say that that job made me happy, but I would not take it for anything. Like, if I were going back, I would still make that decision again. If you want like a dedicated video more about like specifically your first job post-grad, let me know, because I can come up with points for that too. But post-grad, joy 100% comes from the process that you are in, not an end goal, because you're not going to quite be reaching an end goal yet. So be real with yourself about the mindset that you have and be aware of the mindset you have. I'm not saying keep your hopes down low, but try to have a realistic expectation for what the year will look like, because one of the worst crashes to feel is whenever the expectations are up here and the reality is here. And maybe the reality is not even like that. It's not even low. It's just like neutral, normal, maybe even kind of good, but having like the distance where you have to come down, that hurts. And that's easy to beat yourself up about it, of, oh, I should have done this so that my expectations could be met, or I should have done this, I should have done this. When really, when you're in your first year post-grad, you're on steps A, B, C, you know, you're not reaching Z yet. And that's okay, because joy comes in the process. A little affirmation, I guess, that I really loved that has been helpful to me both in senior year of college, throughout grad school, and throughout this first year post-grad. It's just, I love what is happening to me right now. I like saying it like that because it doesn't take away having any future goals. It's not like, okay, right now is all that I've ever wanted it to be. Right now is exactly where I ever want to end up. It's just, I love what is happening to me right now. And that could be growth. Like, I love the growth that is happening to me right now. That could be learning through discomfort. I love the resiliency that I'm having to have right now. I love the breaking out of my comfort zone that I'm having to do right now, because I love what is happening to me right now. And then this is where I was originally going to talk about how seeking happiness is one of the most guaranteed ways to never be satisfied. There have been studies on this. I didn't look them up, so you can look them up yourself. It can be your homework. But people whose main goal and main focus is happiness are often so much more unhappy than people who focus on other things that have like side effects of happiness. I found this on Pinterest and I thought it was helpful. I actually found it this morning, so I was like, oh wow, perfect timing. But it says, what do I want to do with the rest of my life versus what do I feel inspired to explore more deeply at this point in my life? If you feel inspired to explore something more deeply and you pour yourself into that thing, most likely you will have joy and you will have happiness that comes from it. But if you focus on what do I want to do for the rest of my life? What will make me happy for the rest of my life? It's really hard to find an answer for that. The second question, the what do I want to explore more deeply at this point in my life, removes pressure to plan your whole life in one moment and trains you to honor the ever-changing truth of your being. Remember how we talked about how the framework that's been surrounded, like scaffolding your whole life up till now, is gone? Instead of having a clear-cut progression of steps through your life now, you get to be ever-changing. You get to pour yourself into a hobby and then decide you no longer want to do that and totally about face and go somewhere different and do something different. You get to have a first post-grad job that you love and you stay there and you work your way up the company and you would have a good time doing so. Or you're allowed to have a first job post-grad that you find out is not something that you want to spend the rest of your time with, and you get what you can from that job and then you do something different. Like, you don't have to be stuck. Your life now is yours to choose, which can be terrifying when you want to choose, okay, what makes me happiest, but can be really liberating when you ask yourself, what do I feel inspired to explore more deeply at this point in my life? Another little quote, this one's attributed to Martin Luther King Jr., but if I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. Another important mindset to have, because lots of times you won't necessarily be taking like great leaps and strides towards your end goal. It'll more so be taking small choices and small decisions throughout each of your days that will build you up to have eventually a happy life. So if I cannot do great things, if I cannot do big grand things, I can do small things in a great way. And in my opinion, that's how you get joy, from the small things in every day. Maybe I'm not going to change the world today, but I am going to listen to my coworker when they're going through it, and I'm going to do that in a great way. Something about post-grad that I think you'll hear in nearly every person that you hear talk about it is you have to find community. And that's just like full stop. You have to find community. In school, you have so many people that you are just spend your life next to, parallel with, forced proximity. And it is not going to be the same when you make it post-grad. Maybe you have a job to go to and then you go home. And it is on you to come up with anything that you're doing outside of that time. It is hard to make friends post-grad, but I think a lot of that is because it's not necessarily going to be, oh, perfect, we have 2 classes together so we can hang out at those classes and then maybe go do something afterward. Instead, it's we both have to be dedicated enough to take time out of our schedules, find a time that works, and spend time together for a friendship to go deeper. The structure of friendships is different. I haven't been good at it so far. I've tried and I have failed many times, but give yourself grace and understand that there are so many people who are in the same boat as you. You're not alone in that boat. With that though, your community can't necessarily stop at friends. I think it's very important to become involved in where you live, whether it's a new city, a new neighborhood, or somewhere you've been for a long time. See what events are going on in your neighborhood. If they're a farmer's market, are there places to volunteer? Being connected outside of just yourself is another one of those things that can bring joy. Remember how I'm anti, how do I make myself happy? Living a self-serving, entirely self-serving life can often lead you to be pretty disconnected. There's caveats there. I'm not saying like put others before you all the time. You know, be kind to yourself, make choices that are good for you, whatever. But not everything can be, okay, what makes me happy in this moment? Because fun versus fulfilling, usually doing things that are fulfilling will lead you to overall feel more joyful and connected. You know, I don't do that all the time either. I'm not trying to put myself on some pedestal, because some of these are things, like I said, I wish I knew post-grad. You won't get it right for a while, and it's okay to be vulnerable about not being perfect at life, because obviously no one is. But when you compare, or when you have expectations for yourself and you feel that your life doesn't look as great as your friends that you're seeing on social media, or you feel like your life isn't as great as you had hoped that it would be when you were post-grad, that's okay. That doesn't make you bad. That doesn't make you a disappointment. That doesn't make you a failure. It's normal for post-grad. I think be ready for transitions to just feel icky, uncomfortable. Your routine will not be perfect in the first month of your work. Your routine will not be perfect in the first month of you living at your new apartment. It's hard to transition. Change can be tough. And that doesn't mean that a decision that you made was bad, like to move or to start a new job. It's just that change is tough, so have grace with yourself about that. Be aware kind of what you want to value and do what you can to realistically prioritize those values. Lastly, a little reminder, something I wish I knew, I guess, is that growing in a different direction is still growing. Up until graduation, so much of our movement is just like progressively continuously up with grades, like I talked about with, okay, I went from undergrad, now I'm going to grad school, I'm getting my master's. Like, you're growing upwards. And when you graduate, graduate, when that scaffolding, that framework is gone, it's hard to just consistently keep climbing a ladder like that, at that frequency as well. Which, while that can feel weird, it's also a break. Like, you can just be. You accomplished so much. Picture like a plant that just grows like straight up but doesn't have a big root base down here. Now's the time where you can let your roots kind of spread out, get stronger, get deeper. Whether that's pouring into hobbies, pouring into new relationships, pouring into your community, whatever it is. It's okay to just be and to not be accomplishing now. The pace is different after you graduate. This might have been rambly. This might not have been helpful. I don't know. But I do know that post-grad is a tough time for just about everyone. And you can know that it's going to be kind of tough going into it and still feel like, why do I feel this way in the middle of it? So I just wanted to let you know that's okay. You don't have to be scared of those feelings. So many people are in the same boat as you. You will start to figure things out. Things will start to feel less icky and weird once you get used to the new pace of life that you're doing. But overall, congratulations on all that you've accomplished up to this point. You've got this going forward. I'm so proud of you, and I'll see you next time.